Hi everyone, my name is Peter Tasai. I'm a lead engineer with the Unica support group. In this video, we'll talk about cross-session response. What is it? Why is it needed? And how is it implemented? To wrap up, we'll show you an example of how cross-session response works. What is cross-session response? Cross-session response is a way to record responses in a session separate from the session which presented the offer. Why do we need cross-session response? Visitors may not always complete a transaction in a single visit to your touchpoint. A customer may add an item to their shopping cart on your website and not complete the sale until 2 days later. This is very difficult to track when using one session, as keeping the session active indefinitely is not feasible. To overcome this, you can enable cross-session response tracking. This would allow you to track an offer presented in one session and match a response in a separate session. How do we enable and configure cross-session response? First, you need to run the interact ddl ACI CRH TAB underscore your dbtype.sql script against your campaign system table schema, if you've not already done so. Note that this script creates a table for the default audience level customer. If you have additional audience levels, you will need to update the script appropriately and run it for each audience level. In our video, we'll just be doing the customer audience level. Second, you'll need to create a data source with a Jindy name of contact and response history data source in your Interact runtime JVMs. Ensure this data source points to the campaign system table database and schema. For our example, we'll be using Tomcat. Next, within the Interact configuration, ensure that Interact General Contact and Response History data source contains the appropriate Jindy name, schema, and type. Next, within the Interact configuration, create an entry for your audience level under the Interact Services Cross-Session Response Override per Audience path. In our example, this is Customer. Next, ensure that the correct table name as created by the SQL script in step 1 is noted under Interact Profile, Audience Levels, Customer, Cross-Session Response Table. Now, the final step is to enable the cross-session response service by updating the following parameter to true. Interact Services Cross-Session Response, enable log. Now we have enabled and configured cross-session response, you will need to restart the JVM. Let's walk through an example of how this works. I will pass this to my colleague, Nick Marcuse.
Thank you, Peter. So what we'll do is we're going to run a start session, get offers for one offer, and post a contact event. We're going to do this all in session 1, and we'll do this for customer ID 110. So after we send this, we'll first see a record get persisted into the CH staging table. And eventually the ETL will come along and migrate this record to campaign's detailed contact history table. And we see it there. So the next thing we're going to do is use a separate session, in this case session 2, to log and accept. Now I need to grab the treatment code from a previous call and paste that here and pass it with our log accept. Now, what will happen here is that first our entry will go into our cross-session response table. Now there's a separate ETL process apart from the contact and response history ETL, which migrates data from this cross-session response table to the RH staging table. Now what that does is it matches these cross-session responses and tries to match to a corresponding contact event in our detailed contact history table. If it finds a matching event, it will migrate this to RH staging. If it does not, it will not migrate this and will mark this as failed. So in our first API call, we had made that contact and logged that to detailed contact history. So we're expecting this to get migrated to RH staging. All right, we see it's gone from cross-session response. Let's take a look and see if it's in our RH staging table. Sure enough, there it is. And now the contact and response history ETL will come along and migrate this record to campaign's response history table. We see it now has been removed from RH staging. So let's come over to our response history table. We'll run it for today's date and our customer ID of 110. And there is our response record. That's an example of how cross-session response works. Back to you, Peter.
Thank you, Nick. This completes our cross-session response implementation and demonstration. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.